Today's video opens a window into the Orwellian nightmare hellscape of complexity and compromise inherent with modifying any vehicle that was designed and launched, I don't know, 18 months ago or newer. And this is going to get worse and worse and worse into the future. And everyone's ducking for cover about it. We all got our policies and practices and she'll be right. But at the end of the day, it's going to be you with your hands on the wheel. And even better about today's report, it was brought to me by you. Today's video arises as a consequence of a vivid viewer who I'm going to call Guppy. Guppy goes, "Oh, John, firstly, I just wanted to say that you have great content on YouTube. No need to suck up, Gupster. We're doing it, dude. Secondly, I was seriously looking at purchasing a Kia Tasman, more so after your recent and fantastic review format. Two gents chatting about the drive. Enough with the suction, Gupster. Review about the Tasman. But I came across something rather disturbing in my view while researching the Kia Tasman. It has to do with the fact that when fitting the manufacturer bullbar, most if not all the safety features get switched off when the bullbar is fitted. Below is a list of things that get turned off." I can't say that without chills up the spine arising from a mad flashback to ex-wife number 4. That was in the last letter that she ever wrote me. Below is a list of things that get turned off. Quite the list, I'd have to say, and some of it quite regrettable also. Anyway, we'll get to that list of things that get turned off in just a second. This video is possible because of my 2 enduring side hustles. I get new cars cheap for punters, just like you. Mainstream cars, ordinary cars. You don't have to go to the dealership and go face to face with a snake. There's no grabbing of the ankle, which is tradition in Australia and throughout the developed world whenever one buys a new car, but we can take that all away and we don't even charge you a fee. We typically save people thousands off the recommended drive-away price. Can't always do that. Some cars are resistant to that, but generally people do okay. So if that's you or someone you know, fill in the form at the end of the link in the description and I'll help you out with that. Similar deal with home solar, with a side bonus that the government is just hurling cash at you. I've had solar here for, 18 months or something now, and my bill has been slashed. My power bill, and I never had a problem paying the power bill. I just hate the power company because they're such cocks. Go figure. And now I am less beholden to them. The government's throwing money at anybody who wants a battery on an existing system or a brand new system or an additional battery for an existing system. So the world is your government-funded oyster if you would like a battery. This will save you thousands of dollars right now, but that backhander will diminish in time, so the time to act on that is now if you want the maximum benefit. Link on that also down there in the description. And now back to the list of things that get turned off. So I've got a quote here from the Gupster about the things that get turned off. And basically it's a copy and paste of something that he got from the dealer, I think. Important, it says, the installation of a bullbar on a Kia Tasman will result in the following vehicle features being switched off. Forward collision avoidance assist. Now there's a total of 8 things that get switched off in 2 domains here, so do try to keep up. I know I had to read it twice in order to just assimilate it. So in the forward collision avoidance assist domain, you're going to lose the junction crossing function, the lane change oncoming function, the lane change side function, the blind spot collision avoidance assist brackets driving function, evasive steering assist, and driver steering assist brackets steering force assist function. So basically this is all the stuff that reads the road ahead and keeps you in your lane and copes with traffic coming the other way and all of that crap, basically. You fit the OE-approved bull bar, that's under the bus, okay? That's just the way it is. And in addition to that, there's the highway driving assist functions, 2 of them, lane change assist and lane follow assist 2, which is that annoying system that attempts to keep you in the centre of the lane because, you know, you might be hopeless at that. Although I just find these systems galling because sometimes I want to be out in the left-hand edge of the lane. And you might too, you know, for example, setting yourself up for a right-hand curve on the highway, or vice versa, setting yourself up for a left-hand curve. You might like to start out on the right edge of the lane so you can just make progress smoother and not give, I don't know, everyone else in the car motion frickin' sickness. So I'm not sure that it's totally bad news that you're going to lose all these things, but if you want a bull bar, this stuff gets turned off and it goes under the bus permanently and you have to agree to it. Okay, now the Gupster goes on and says, not only that, Kia dealer makes you sign a waiver saying that you understand that all these safety features will be permanently turned off. Now, I would have to guess that given the looks of the Tasman, a bull bar is probably going to be something that would be very popular add-on. I'd agree with that. And I'd also say, dear Guppy, that when you're face-to-face with a car dealer, like let's say you don't use my services to do that because you just love that being face-to-face with a car salesman. It's been 3 years. Thank God I'm back kind of thing. If you're in that situation, it's very important to realise where the balance of power is. And I'd suggest the golden rules apply. You've got the gold, therefore you make the rules. So if a salesman puts it to you like, oh, if you want the bull bar, you must sign the papers, sounding a bit like a Volkswagen dealer there, who's in charge again? And who's got his hands on the fat stack of 70 grand sitting on the table? And yet, who's demanding a signature on some waiver like sex and travel, dude? This is like, you know, making a statement to the cops. Generally, you don't have to do that, you know? Signing the papers. I wouldn't be doing that at a dealership. Like, fit the bull bar, dude. Anyway, and yes, I'm guessing that a bull bar is like non-negotiable for a lot of people buying a Tasman because they did such an interesting job on the front end, didn't they? The Gupster goes on and says, oh, I guess I'm emailing you as I thought this might be a popular topic to discuss on your channel, and more so the fact that I was quite disappointed given the fact that given the $70,000 price point, you lose some substantial safety tech. Being an engineer myself, and he talks like an engineer too. Go figure. I just think that this has to be the biggest design blunder for the Kia Tasman other than the blind man who designed the front end. Yes, everyone knows that the Tasman is ugly, except Ray Charles and Jose Feliciano, etc., I suppose. However, just to make sure that the Gupster wasn't winding me up, I did reach out to Kia on all of this, and they responded in writing, quote, the reduced function is correct, the waiver is no longer requested and has been replaced with a disclaimer, which will be included in all marketing parts and fleet materials, owner's manual, etc. And I don't know why the waiver has suddenly been withdrawn, or the requirement to sign the papers. It did take them a week to get back to me, though, so perhaps they had to have a few meetings about that. Anyway, they went on and said, quote, the installation of a bull bar on the Tasman will affect the following features: the forward collision avoidance assist, the 6 subset of features in that, and highway driving assist, the 2 subset of features in that. For further information in relation to this, please refer to the Kia Tasman Owner's Manual. Now, it's been privately suggested to me by someone I won't name that this is also the case with another quite recent ute, the new Mitsubishi Triton, because in order to get 5 stars, you have to have all of this ADAS shit in the vehicle. You do. And this is such a Russian bureaucracy hellscape issue that we need to talk about it, okay? Because fleets, i.e. government fleets and organisations like big mining companies and Telstra and, all of the big buyers of vehicles, in particular utes, including, let's say, the cops, forestry, all of this stuff. There's thousands upon thousands of vehicles being bought by fleets. Now, generally in Australia, these fleets will not buy a vehicle that does not have a 5-star safety rating because their version of events is that they're doing everything possible to mitigate risk. But a great many of those institutions, straight away, they take the vehicle and they slap on a bull bar. Now, if you've got your 5-star vehicle and you decide that it has to be 5-star to protect our stakeholders kind of thing, and then you stick a bull bar on the pointy end of it, it's no longer 5-star. It's no longer 5-star in the domain of bullshit assistance technology. It's probably not 5-star in the domain of what they call vulnerable road user protection. And it probably affects the crashworthiness as well, because crashworthiness is a black art of applied Newtonian mechanics. And what has to happen, basically, like the bogan idiots put bull bars on vehicles because I want to protect my vehicle from roostrike. I can't go driving in the country without hitting a kangaroo. Well, I've driven in the country heaps, dude, and I've never had a vehicle at the panel beaters from hitting a kangaroo, but then again, I paid attention and got a shit ton of driver training, and I slow down at times like dawn and dusk when roostrike is likely. So there's that. Anywho, I want to protect my vehicle. What they don't realise is that when you put a big, heavy chunk of steel in front, or aluminium, in front of the vehicle, it affects the way the crash sensor detects a crash, because cars are designed to crumple in a particular way, and it's extremely precise in the time domain, because there's 3 crashes and it's only the third one that kills you. The first crash occurs between the vehicle and whatever it hits, and you're fine in that crash. And then the second crash occurs between you and all of the structures in the car, if you're lucky. All of the structures designed to protect you, such as airbags and the seatbelt with its pyrotechnic load-limiting seatbelt pretensioners, and all of this precisely choreographed stuff that lets rip at warp speed in the millisecond domain, okay? And that's designed to protect you from crash number 3, which is between your internal organs and your skeleton. You don't want the fluid in your brain sloshing around hydrodynamically and rupturing a blood vessel up there, because there's no coming back from that. And there are structural limits on things like your aorta, which is a big pipe carrying a shit ton of blood that you can't live without. And it's confronting to think of us as bags of animated gloop that require fluid dynamics and which have structural limits and things of that nature, but that's what we are, right? And that's what all these systems do. And if you put a big, heavy chunk of whatever in front of your vehicle, and then you go and snot something heavy like a vehicle coming the other way, then the crash pulse, like the way the load is registered by the crash sensor in the vehicle, changes. It has to change. Newton said it frickin' changes, okay? And the best result from that is it's not significant, right? But nobody knows, or if they do, nobody's saying. The worst result is that it changes for the worst. What it doesn't do is it doesn't increase the protection for you or your family. Physics says it doesn't, okay? Isaac Newton says it doesn't. We'll reanimate him and I'll interview the fuck out of him and he'll say, no, that can't help, right? Because the rules have already been written on that shit. So what's happening here is that fleets are buying 5-star vehicles because only 5-star is acceptable to keep our stakeholders safe. And then they're slapping a bull bar on. And not only is Isaac Newton going to be unimpressed by that as a proposition, but now you're going to be permanently disabling a bunch of safety systems which ANCAP says are essential for best practice safety performance. Now, whether they are or not, that's debatable, okay? But we need to have a rational debate about that. We need to have a rational debate about dipshits in the fleet industry putting bull bars on vehicles when they also require 5-star safety performance, because ADAS is part of 5-star. And if you suck on that Kool-Aid and you believe that 5-star is necessary, how do you justify slapping the bull bar on the front of the next 300 Tasmans that you buy? Because guaranteed, with that bull bar on, it is no longer a 5-star vehicle. Or a better way of putting this, because of the Russian bureaucracy nature of the politics of this bullshit, is that it would no longer perform to a 5-star standard if tested with a fucking bull bar bolted to the front. We kind of know that because those features are being disabled and it can't crash the same either, right? And it can't protect pedestrians and cyclists and, you know, all manner of vulnerable road users such as that. Kiddies walking home from school and, you know, whatever. We don't want to be cleaning them up. We don't want to be cleaning them up ever in any vehicle, clean skin or bull bar equipped. But if a pedestrian, little kiddie, whatever, gets hit by a car, the chances of survival are much lower with a bull bar. And most bull bars are fashion accessories. Let's face it, they just are. They're the 4x4 equivalent of the right handbag in that social subset, because very few of those vehicles spend umpteen hours out there on the highway and need protection from kangaroos. That's just flat out bullshit. Even if you go on holiday for a month every year, still spending 11 months in the city, dude, come on. And yet bull bars are allowed. That's okay. It torpedoes the 5-star protection. That's okay. But if you get caught doing 55 in a 50 zone, you're virtually Hannibal freaking Lecter. Draw me the diagram on how this makes sense, or alternatively, let's just step away from 1986 or whatever and get into a more contemporary sort of place where we actually talk about the issues that matter and we have policies in place that are predicated on fundamental physics of keeping human beings safe behind the wheel of a car. Would that be nice, or shall we just continue with this bullshit where you can have a 5-star car bought by a fleet with a bull bar on it? That is fucked on 100 different levels. And if you'd like to disagree with me in the comments, have at it, dude, because I promise not to care.